ESPN Radio, coming at you live on Sirius XM Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Uber. Uber Rewards is going to make you love Uber even more. Get all the info and terms at uber.com/rewards. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Got a lot of stuff to get into today. I'm coming at you live from Los Angeles, California. I was at the Los Angeles Lakers Houston Rockets game last night. I'll get into some of the things that transpired last night, obviously. And, of course, there's some NFL stuff to get into. There's some additional basketball stuff to get into as well, involving Joel Embiid, involving the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo, their victory, the Milwaukee Bucks victory, that is, last night over, the Boston Celtics. Whole bunch of stuff to get into, but there is some breaking news that we have an obligation to touch on, and that involves the owner of the New England Patriots. His name would happen to be Mr. Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft, the owner for the New England Patriots, the reigning defending Super Bowl champions. He is being charged with 2 counts of soliciting someone to commit prostitution, stemming from a raid in a day spa in Florida. I believe that's Jupiter, Florida, if I remember correctly, but I am not sure. According to police today, Kraft was picked up as part of a sting that has been going on for months, and his charges relate specifically to 2 different visits to the Orchids of Asia Day Spa in the Florida city of Jupiter. According to Police Chief Daniel Kerr, at a news conference, he says, quote, charges have been filed, but he has not been arrested. The NFL team on Friday, the New England Patriots, denied that Kraft had committed a crime. Quote, we categorically deny that Mr. Robert Kraft engaged in any illegal activity. Because it is a judicial matter, we will not be commenting further, a representative of the team stated. Let me state this for the record in the interest of full disclosure. I know Robert Kraft pretty well. We communicate periodically. Personally speaking, I got a lot of love for the man. I think he's a phenomenal owner, a phenomenal executive and businessman. I'm a huge fan of his. Okay? And having said all of that, the news is the news. Now, some of you may be of the mindset that, you want to cast judgment against him and you want to say an accusation, an arrest automatically attaches guilt to him. I'm not going there. He says that he's done nothing illegal. I'm going to believe him. Now, if you believe that a crime has been committed as it pertains to him dating someone considerably younger than him, then clearly he's guilty of that, because there's been there's been at least one person that I know that all of us have seen him with that was relatively young. And we assume that's his girlfriend. I think that's what's been written about it. Outside of that, I don't know what to tell you. As the evidence flows in, we'll be in a position to comment on it. But I am of the mindset, my attitude is when you mention something illegal associated with Mr. Robert Kraft, I've got to see it to believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I got to see it to believe it. In this country, you are innocent until proven guilty. I know we don't sit up there and accord the same leisure and the same luxury to the modern-day professional athlete. God knows we don't do that. God knows we don't do that. And you can look at it and you can say somebody that's a billionaire that's white, oh, my goodness, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt because of money and all of this other stuff. I'm not going there either. I'm going to tell you that let's gather all the facts, and from that moment forward, hey, you judge accordingly. But the man has categorically denied that he has done anything illegal. Period. He didn't deny being with somebody else, didn't deny being with somebody else younger. He denied that he did anything illegal. And until facts show me otherwise, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on that. Period. Having said all of that, it's a news story that can't be avoided. The league is obviously going to review this matter. And here is Jupiter Police Detective Andrew Sharp speaking on Robert Kraft's involvement in all of this. Listen up.
So how the 15th Judicial Circuit works is these are misdemeanor crimes. If you live and reside in Palm Beach County, you will receive a notice in the mail saying that you have a summons to appear in court. I can't speak to the exact dollar number that individual paid. However, there is a specific number for a time frame when you are there that you pay. It appears when you go to the spa for a half hour, the fee would be $59. For an hour, that would be $79. The video contained Mr. Kraft inside receiving the alleged acts. The answer to that is yes.
So they're saying that an act was committed. They're acknowledging that it was consensual. So the issue here is solicitation inside of the spa. How do we know it wasn't somebody that he's been with on numerous occasions? How do we know these things? I don't know. I don't know how you prove that. Either way you slice it, ain't going to jail for this. This is not something he's going to be incarcerated for. This is basically a public relations blemish. It's embarrassing to find your name in the news for this reason. And it's a blemish on the NFL in that regard. You can look at it that way. Again, let's find out what more the facts reveal. Adam Schefter, ESPN's NFL insider extraordinaire, had this to say as it pertains to the league reviewing this incident.
No matter what happens legally, is in all probability going to have to take action because the league has talked about time and time again. Anybody who brings unwanted attention to the NFL, which is certainly what this would be qualified as, would be subject to discipline. Now, you're talking about a man who's worth billions of dollars. Money is not a factor in terms of what the league could do to discipline him. But in terms of the penalty, time away from a team and an organization that he loves would be something that the league is going to have to look at.
You know something, ladies and gentlemen? There are things that I want to say. There really is. This is one of those situations where I just think it's strongly advisable for Stephen A. Smith to shut up. It really, really is. You're talking about assault. You're talking about violence. You're talking about things of that nature. I got it. But when you're talking about two consenting adults deciding to engage in, dare I say, extracurricular activity, and somehow, some way that is a crime, I need to be quiet. This one of situations where, you know what? If you're watching me on national TV on ESPN News, if you hear the tenor and the tone in my voice, just imagine what I'm thinking. You have the license to do that. I think I need to shut up about this. I really, really do. Because according to people that I've spoken to, in the state of Florida, if you're in a spa and there are things that transpire because it was in the spa, that's what makes the consenting portion of it illegal. I just don't know. I'm no lawyer. If there's a lawyer in Florida that's out there right now who's astute on such legal matters in the state of Florida as it pertains to this incident, fine. I got it. But I just want to put it in a layman's perspective. Please allow me to do that. Look, we work for Mickey Mouse here. I'm not encouraging, okaying in any way anything illegal. That includes prostitution. I'm in no way doing that. What I am saying, however, is you're an older man in your late 70s and you're a billionaire. Your wife, God rest her wonderful soul, is deceased, and you choose to partake of whatever activities you want to partake of, and somebody consents to doing so, and it's been on more than one occasion, and somehow the NFL is going to view that as a negative and a blemish on their brand and their product? Okay. I'm just not qualified. I'm just not qualified to have this subject, to broach this subject. I apologize. I'm usually astute at most things. I got a multitude of things on my mind, a multitude of activities that I'm working on in the workplace and what have you. So sometimes I might be forgetful here and there. This ain't about that. This is about me acknowledging it's just not safe for me to broach this subject and speak about it with the candor that I want to. Allen Iverson, years ago, when I was interviewing him on my television show, Quite Frankly, which aired on ESPN2 from 2005 to January 2007. That was 18 months. We did about 327 shows. I interviewed about 780 people. Allen Iverson was my very first interview for that show. And it had nothing to do with a subject like this, of course. But I had asked him a particular question, and the reason why I'm bringing his name up right now is because he gave me an answer that I've held on to every day of my career ever since then. Because I pride myself in being honest. I pride myself in being as authentic as I possibly can be. And Allen Iverson, I asked him a question, and he said, I'm not going to answer that question because I can't be as real as I want to be about it. So I'd rather not touch it. This is a subject in today's day and age in particular. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the first time this has happened to me. I can't be as real as I want to be about this subject. So I'm just not going to touch it. 888, say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. A billionaire who's older engages in consenting activity with another adult and is now being charged with soliciting prostitution. Okay. I got it. People far more astute than me can speak eloquently about this subject. I clearly am incapable of doing so. Let's move on. The other item I wanted to get to, and I'm lying because I really, really want to get into this. I really do. It's just not safe. Oh, I want to get into it. But I'm going to leave it alone. I was at the game last night. Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles Lakers go up against the Houston Rockets. Houston has a 19-point lead. LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers come storming back. They end up winning the game. LeBron James plays exceptionally well. Brandon Ingram played lights out yesterday. Had 27 and 13 last night. 27.13 rebounds. After the game, Chris Paul, James Harden, both spoke out about official Scott Foster. They had a real problem with him. The manner in which he officiated the game. James Harden attempted 10 free throws on the night, but got called for 4 offensive fouls. 4. And ultimately ended up fouling out of the game with under 2 minutes left. And as a result, the Houston Rockets lost. Chris Paul, president of the Players Association, I might add, he's had a problem with Scott Foster as well because he was ultimately teed up before fouling out. I think it's the first time in like 20 years backcourt fouled out of the same game. James Harden hadn't fouled out of the game since 2017, December of 2017. The man doesn't really foul out. And some of the calls that were made against him, he usually gets. Clearly, he believes that Scott Foster was out to get him. Clearly, Chris Paul believes that. Clearly, Mike D'Antoni came to the defense of his players because he was issued a tee as well. And that pretty much ended Houston's chances of winning that game last night because both Chris Paul and Mike D'Antoni ended up getting teed up. So it's just one of those situations that did not look good. The league MVP is James Harden. He's an offensive juggernaut. He's an absolute magician at getting fouled and getting to the free throw line. Fouls are usually called in his favor. They don't usually get called against him. Last night was an aberration, of course. And somebody for the Houston Rockets told me, I don't know whether this is, I haven't confirmed rather whether this is true or not, but they said that Scott Foster, their record was 0-7 in the playoffs at home with him officiating their games. That's what they said about Scott Foster. They don't like him. They don't trust him. And James Harden went a bit further in talking about this particular official. Listen to what he had to say.
Last year in the postseason, we came in the Western Conference Finals. I think he officiated a couple of our games, and it's lingering, and it's something that has to be looked at for sure.
You feel like it's a personal issue?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, it's personal. For sure. Like, I don't think he should be able to even, officiate our games anymore. Honestly.
Is that a rarity among officials?
I can't hear you.
Is that a rarity among?
No. I don't really talk about officials or anything, but I think just for him in particular, like he's different.
That was James Harden, the star of the Houston Rockets, the reigning league MVP, on Scott Foster. This is Chris Paul talking about the same official, Scott Foster.
I mean, I don't know what else to do. You know what I mean? Been met with the league with him before and all this stuff. I don't know what else to do.
You feel like there is a personal?
I just don't know what else to do. You know what I mean? Just keep playing. I don't know what else to do.
Chris Paul met with the league office and Scott Foster to challenge him on his personal feelings and what is perceived as personal animus against Chris Paul and the Houston Rockets. Scott Foster, obviously, if you're officiating in the finals, you've got a good reputation with the league. I'm not going to sit here and castigate or cast aspiration, miscast Scott Foster in any way. It's the league's job to judge how thorough and effective an official he is. There have been times in the past, there was an official that had an axe to grind with Clyde Drexler. He despised Clyde Drexler. I forgot his name, but he despised it. Hugh Hollins had a huge problem with Scottie Pippen and the Chicago Bulls. This is not new. Joey Crawford, when he ejected Tim Duncan from the game for sitting on the bench laughing. And Commissioner Stern called him out, and Joey Crawford don't play with nobody. Joey Crawford was like, Commissioner Stern tried to come down hard on him. Joey Crawford sent the note out to the public. It's been nice officiating in the NBA all of these years. He didn't give a damn. He wasn't bowing to anybody. That was what Joey Crawford was doing. So you have some officials that have had a history. I mean, you didn't play with Joey Crawford. You didn't play with Steve Javie. James Capers, who's still officiating in an exceptional manner, by the way, in the National Basketball Association. Some people will sit up there and say, all of those guys had issues with players. But here was the interesting part about them. It wasn't one, it was everybody. You knew their reputation coming into officiating a game. In the case of Scott Foster, there seems to be specific players pointing the finger at him. Mainly Chris Paul and now James Harden. I will say this. Here's where it gets very, very interesting. James Harden is phenomenal. He's unstoppable. He's a professional scorer, okay? And he's a magician at drawing fouls and getting things his way in that regard. He averages 11 free throws a game, 11.4 to be exact. He's had a game this year against the Nets where he shot 23 free throws. A game against the Grizzlies this year when he shot 27 free throws. He's used to getting calls. When he's not getting calls, Houston's not the same. And Houston has the tendency to fall apart like they did last night when he's not getting calls. So this is very, very serious because when we talk about how formidable Houston should be perceived as being in our eyes, we got to take into account James Harden and how he's affected and how the Rockets' offense is affected when he's not getting calls. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Either way you slice it, that was a tremendous comeback by the Los Angeles Lakers. They amped it up, particularly defensively. They did the things that they needed to do after making a whole bunch of errors in the first three quarters. LeBron James did not have a stellar first half, but he scored like 18 points in the last 16 minutes and just showed up and showed out and took over. And clearly, that's what he's going to need to do in order to propel the Lakers to a playoff picture. I got news for you. I want the Lakers in the playoffs bad, but not if they're going to be the 8th seed. You know who I want as the 8th seed? I want the Sacramento Kings as the 8th seed because I love seeing them go up against the Golden State Warriors, who presumably will be the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. I love what I'm seeing from Sacramento. I want the Lakers at number 7 because I think the Lakers could beat anybody else if they're on their game and LeBron is on his. I think he'll get calls. I think the game will slow down. And I think he's a master at postseason competition compared to others. And it would benefit him against the other teams in ways that he would have no chance against the Golden State Warriors. So it's going to be real interesting to see what transpires over these last 24 games for the Los Angeles Lakers, along with the Sacramento Kings, the Clippers, the Utah Jazz, all of these guys. It's a lot of stuff percolating in the National Basketball Association. Let's talk about it. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. That was Straight Talk Wireless. Nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. By the way, Peloton is a game-changing indoor cycling bike that brings the energy of live studio classes right to your home anytime you want, winter or summer, rain or shine. Whether it's a monthly challenge to meet your goals, a training program for your next race, or setting a new personal best, the Peloton bike will make you want to show up and keep climbing the live leaderboard year-round. On average, Peloton members are riding their bikes more every year and crushing their personal records along the way. Learn more about the Peloton bike at onepeloton.com or visit your local showroom. 888-SAY-ESPN. That is the number to call. Don't touch that dial. You're listening live to Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Craving even more of Stephen A.?
Him of all people. For Radio, ESPN News. See, this is why I wasn't qualified to talk about this subject. Because I just got some additional information that I did not know. This is exactly why I'm glad I didn't go into any details. This is why. Let me read to y'all what this whole situation involving Robert Kraft, owner for the New England Patriots, being charged with, soliciting prostitution. Listen to this. It says here in this article, and I just saw this. My producer just sent this to me 2 minutes ago. It says here, the charge comes amid a widespread crackdown on sex trafficking in the area surrounding Palm Beach County. About 200 arrest warrants have been issued in recent days, and more are expected. Police said they secretly planted undercover cameras in targeted massage parlors and videotaped the interactions between men and the female employees. Wow. You see, you back off then. Sting operation going on. It's extensive. It's been going on for months. They got videotapes, all of this other stuff. My mentality was, you got 2 consenting adults. What's the problem? It's none of our business. That was my thing. And they talk about in certain spots, for example, in certain businesses to engage in such activity is what's enabling something to be labeled illegal. And that's what I'm alluding to when I say, oh, please don't get me started. But if you're talking about a sting operation that's been going on for months in this particular area, and it involves sex trafficking and over 200 people and all of this other stuff, now you're back off. Okay, I got it. Now this requires far more serious introspection, as opposed to somebody looking at 2 consenting adults and deciding whether something's illegal or illegal or whatever. I mean, I'm looking, and I shouldn't do this, but I'll use it as an example. I've known of situations with a man and a woman that's a couple, and they pull over in a park and stay in their car and do whatever it was that they were doing and got in trouble with the law because of that. That makes no sense to me. It doesn't. But something like this, sex trafficking, that's entirely different. Because you might have people that are capitulating to this in somewhat of a compelling or forceful manner because of whatever reason. So thank God I didn't get in details because, like I said earlier, I ain't qualified to talk about this subject. I don't know. So I'm glad to my producer, Nuno Texiera, and Cat Pastor for sending me that nugget of material because I did not see that. That changes the complexion of it, as far as I'm concerned, to a far more serious matter. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Nigel in Brooklyn, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead. Nigel in Brooklyn, are you there? Sir, you're not clear. You're not clear over the airways. I can't hear you.
Hey, what's going on? How's everything,
There you
man?
go. There you go. Go ahead.
Go ahead, man. Stephen A.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, let me say I respect what you do for the culture and for the people, man. But the Robert Kraft issue seems like it's a bigger issue.
Yes, sir.
You know, like when a guy
it does now.
with Robert Kraft. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm saying it does now. After what I just read to you, absolutely. I didn't know that. It's a much more serious issue now. Yes, absolutely.
And the power a guy has like that carries, this could have been swept under the rug. So for the police to have a big interview and make it public, this is bigger than we think.
Okay. Can't argue with that. Not right now. No question about it. Let's go to Chris. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Stephen A. Happy Friday to you.
Thank you, man. Go ahead.
I'm going to talk about the Lakers and the Rockets last night. Great win for the Lakers, but two things stood out for me last night, Stephen A. You were at the game, so I'm pretty sure you've seen it yourself.
Yep.
LeBron and Ingram obviously played well, but they were both old. They both didn't. Neither of them made a three-pointer. They were 0 for 7 combined. We can't live like that come playoff time. And the second thing that stood out for me, and this comes from LeBron, because everyone talks about him going into playoff mode or whatnot. I don't remember him taking on the James Harden challenge not one time yesterday, Stephen A. Not one time.
You don't recall who taking on the challenge?
LeBron. He didn't take on the James Harden challenge when our team was down 19 and Staples Center's crowd was quiet. And I'm watching Reggie Bullock get backdoored twice for dunks and layups, and LeBron's looking at him with the sideways face. And I'm like, well, that's not why we brought him over here. He's not here to guard James Harden. He's here to make three-point jump shots. You need to be on James Harden when we're down.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is that part fair to LeBron at this point? 16th year in the league, has logged between regular season and playoffs over 56,000 minutes. Is that really coming off a groin injury just a couple of weeks ago? Is that really fair to LeBron?
Yes. Let me ask you this. I'll throw this back at you then, Stephen A. Everything you just told me with the injury and the minutes and all that good stuff, you think Kobe would have taken on the challenge?
Well, let me ask you this question. Do you know for sure he would have coming off a groin injury? If LeBron James is healthy and he's just older, that's different. But if he's just coming off a groin injury, that might not be the case. Remember, Kobe was all-world defensively until he aged. And then once he aged, those defensive assignments changed. Let's not forget that.
No,
all right, so what I'm saying is, if LeBron hadn't been injured, your point would be more valid. But him coming off an injury, clearly not 100%, working his way back into things, why should he jump at the opportunity to defend James Harden?
Well, let me ask you this then. I mean, I'm not saying take it for the whole game, Stephen A. I'm not saying that. But there's possessions in the game where it requires the best against the best, and our team is reeling.
I don't think so. I don't agree with that, because who's to say that LeBron is your best defender? Excuse me, if you've got somebody, you might have somebody that's a better defender than LeBron James. Why not let him guard him?
Because he's the best in the world, Stephen A.
No, he's the best in the world offensive. When we talk about LeBron the best in the world, we ain't talking about him defensively. We've never said he was the best in the world defensively ahead of Kawhi Leonard. When did we say that?
No, we didn't, Stephen A., but he has to set the example. I hear what you're saying. I'm right there with you. But if he's going to set the standard, you know our team is 3 games behind the 8th seed.
Come on, man. Chris, you're too knowledgeable about basketball to make such an ignorant statement. There's plenty of guys that's been called the best in the world because we're talking about them offensively. We call Steph Curry the greatest shooter in the world. They had to hide him for years defensively and cover for him because he was deficient defensively. Allen Iverson was a superstar, and he was box office, and he was a steel magnet. But when it came to actually going out there, okay, and defending the guy straight up, he couldn't do that. There's been plenty of guys in the NBA history that were incredibly formidable offensively, but they were deficient defensively.
Right, and I'm not refuting that. I agree 1,000%. But LeBron doesn't have a Draymond Green or Eric Snow or guys like that.
He got a Brandon Ingram.
Like
Brandon Ingram's a good defender.
He's on LeBron's level, even if LeBron is 80%.
Yeah, I would disagree with you. I would disagree with you. I think we overhype LeBron defensively. LeBron takes a lot of defensive plays off. Just the other day, Trae Young was blowing right by him. A matter of fact, guys love when LeBron is sticking them half the time because sometimes he'll give up on plays defensively. Not all the time. And he picks his spots and in big moments. But there's a lot of times earlier in the games where LeBron James takes plays off defensively.
And I agree with that, but I'm saying he has to set the example, Stephen A. Even if he's not 100%, there's certain plays in the game where you have to take on that
I
challenge.
can only say my point a multitude of times. I completely disagree with you. He doesn't have to stick James Harden. He doesn't have to do that. Others have to step up and do that. Now, if he was the elite defender and he ran from James Harden, that would be different. But if you clearly are incapable of guarding the man, why try? Let somebody else do it. That's how I look at it. Appreciate the call. Maurice, you're live at Stephen A. Go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A. Hey, quick question. With that Robert Kraft situation, I was doing some research. They had fined Irsay like $500,000 suspended him 6 games for personal conduct policy.
Okay.
I think the best way to hit the Patriots is, how about them losing that first-round draft pick where they can get that quarterback?
Well, let me ask you a question. Why would you want that? Listen, assuming this is just a situation with consenting adults as opposed to prostitution like the police are saying, why would you want that? With Irsay, wasn't alcohol involved? Wasn't driving while inebriated? Wasn't that involved?
Yeah, but as you know, and you're right, but as they say, no one's bigger than the shield. And
That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. What I mean by that is that there are layers of negative behavior. And so what I'm trying to say to you is, again, you talk about I'm not talking, listen, sex trafficking is a serious, serious thing. And in some instances, we have immigrants who capitulate to such things in a forcible fashion because they feel compelled, because obviously they're running away from a particular situation in another country looking for a better life. And sometimes this comes with it, which is incredibly unfortunate. And that's why we have to applaud our law enforcement officials for cracking down on these such things. And I'm certainly not here to try and minimize sex trafficking because, as I stated a few minutes ago, when I was initially starting the show talking about it, I just thought they busted the owner of the New England Patriots in a consensual situation and with a consenting adult. I didn't know anything about the sex trafficking, the months-long investigation, over 200 people. I didn't know any of that until my producers tipped me off to it in my ear, which is why I came right out of the break and made sure that I addressed it because I wanted everybody to know. I did not know that. Having said all of that, if indeed it comes down to him finding himself in an embarrassing situation that involves nothing more than a fine because he's not found to have engaged in any illegal activity, because he has categorically denied that any illegal activity has taken place. How are you comparing that to somebody that was getting behind the wheel of a car alcohol-induced?
Well, you can, but I'm just saying that overall, it's still a black-on NFL is bigger than the Shield, and with that situation, there should still be some accountability held.
Well, I'm not saying there shouldn't be accountability. Anything that blemishes the Shield, there has to be a price that's paid for it. I'm just sitting there saying, listen, let's go legal for a second here, okay? If you get into a fight with a dude and you punch them in the face, right? That's a bit different than sexual assault. It's a bit different than rape. It's a bit different than manslaughter. It's a bit different than murder. Let's not act like all crimes and all transgressions are the same. They're different, and they should be treated differently. Now, what the severity of this crime, assuming there is one, which Robert Kraft has categorically denied, my position is that let's make sure we treat that differently than we would treat somebody who has engaged in a kind of egregious crime that would be harmful to other human beings, like getting behind the wheel of a car drunk. Now, when you talk about sex trafficking, obviously that's incredibly harmful. And if Robert Kraft or anybody, any of us, have been found to be involved with something like that, That's very, very serious.
And then one
That's
last
very
thing,
serious.
The game last night, I was doing some research, and that article, great article with Scott Eden on Tim Donahue. Less than a week later, you see that they talking about the referee with the game last night. That kind of makes it look like they kind of was like saying some type of conspiracy because of that referee. Do you agree with somewhat of that?
I don't know. And I think it'd be I can't speculate on that because that Tim Donaghy situation was incredibly serious, and I don't think that Scott Foster has done anything to deserve a warrant his name being compared to something like that just because a couple of players had a problem with him last night. That's just me. But I got to run. I appreciate the call. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio. We'll get back to more of your calls in a minute before John Bones Jones, UFC light heavyweight champion of the world, comes on the show with us. By the way, if you missed my opening segment, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith podcast brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One, hey, what's in your wallet? Back with more in a minute.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people.
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A. Get the Giant Junior.
Spas have been closed and several people charged with sex trafficking have been taken into custody. Police said they secretly planted undercover cameras in targeted massage parlors and recorded the interactions between men and female employees. Lord have mercy. I had no idea it was all of that. This is serious. This is very serious. Ain't no way around this. I hope he's innocent. But this is serious. Far serious than I realized. Thank God for my producers for showing me this article. Hour number 2 up next. Progressive protects your business and your dream. Choose from over 30 coverage options at progressivecommercial.com. Plus, get triple action protection for optimal engine performance with Shell V-Power Nitro, plus premium gasoline. Any minute now, we're scheduled to speak. Actually, he is here. He's 23-1-0 with 1-0 decision. He's the light heavyweight champion of the world. He's about to go up against Anthony Smith. He is the one and only John Bones Jones, and he is on the line with yours truly right now. What's going on, Big Time? How are you?
Man, you Big Time. You the one and only Stephen A. How are you?
I wish. Let's get right into it. First of all, you had a fight. You had a fight a few weeks ago. You went up against Alexander Gustafsson. You handled your business in the 3rd round. You took him out. You won the vacant UFC light heavyweight championship of the world. Talk to me about that particular fight and how ready were you for it, considering the fact that it had been nearly 2 years before you had your last fight.
Yeah, it was a great experience for me. He considered himself my kryptonite, and it had been 5 years since we faced each other last, and I think it proved who had been working harder. Proved it proved what the sport meant to each of us. I felt like I've improved leaps and bounds since the last time we faced each other. And I'm just grateful to be in the position that I'm at.
Now, obviously, you were going away from the sport. We don't have to, belabor that point. You've spoken about it. You came on First Take to speak about it. You've been on SportsCenter. You've spoken about it in the past. Your suspension from the sport and what have you. But while you were away, talk to my audience about what that did for you as a fighter. Did it elevate your level of fervor to continue doing this for the long haul? Did it take something away from you? What did you learn in your absence?
Stephen, I've had a very controversial career, and I try to find the good in everything and the blessings in everything. And on the positive side, I got to realize how much the sport means to me, and what I am outside of the sport. And my gratefulness is just as far as me to just work harder, and to dream bigger, and to just allow victory and my perseverance to outweigh any type of controversy or downtime.
You know, it's interesting because when you fought Gustave Finn on, what is it, September 21st, 2013, UFC 165, you had won that fight by decision. When you went up against him this past December 29th, like you said, 5 years later, you know, he said some things about you. He questioned the validity of your fight game. He basically insinuated that you were a cheater. I knew he was doomed from the moment he did that, because you ain't the person to do that to. Make no mistake about that. But when you think about the kind of things that he was saying, are you concerned that even though there was a small sample, and you can explain that if you want to, in your blood or whatever the case may be, are you concerned, whether it's him, the Daniel Cormiers of the world, and others, are you concerned that these guys are going to go about the business of religiously trying to label you somebody who tries to get an unfair advantage against them and try to just eradicate your validity and authenticity as a champion? Are you concerned about that at all moving forward?
You know, I'm not concerned about it, Stephen A. You know, at the end of the day, when you've been blessed with a certain amount of greatness, there will always be excuses for who you are. You know, when I first started the sport, you know, people would say, well, his brothers are both, you know, athletes. You know, they would say, like, well, his arms are long. And then they would say, well, he poked the guy in the eye, so maybe that's why he's winning. Or he's kicking the guy in the knee, you know, that's why he's winning. There's always going to be excuses. And unfortunately, you know, through the situation, my last situation, you know, this whole picogram mess, you know, it's given my doubters a legitimate excuse. But at the end of the day, what's for me is for me, Stephen A. And you just can't stop God's blessings, man. You just can't stop God's blessings.
I got a question. John, I got a question. We're talking to John Bones Jones, UFC light heavyweight champion of the world. He's right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. I got to ask you this question. Why the hell are you fighting somebody with 13 losses? I mean, I know Anthony Smith can fight a little bit, but why is a guy with 13 losses getting in the octagon with you?
Well, you know, as the king, you got to take on all challenges. And every man deserves his chance. And to me, you know, everyone's worthy, man. You know, everyone has their talents and everyone has their value and their worth. And you know, and at the end of the day, you know, the telling of his career it's been a nice one. You know, he's really coming into his own, and he's become a great fighter. And you know, my job is not to be a dream crusher. You know, it's just so much bigger for me, Steve. So in my eyes, he's just a pawn in a great, great story. And there is no face, you know, there is no records to me. It's just, you know, I just see victory for years to come. So, you know, in order to be great, you got to take them all. And that's what I'm here doing.
We're talking to John Bones Jones right here with Stephen A. and the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Are you ever going to fight Daniel Cormier again?
You know, I've always said that it's not personal for me. Like I was just saying, it's not personal for me. I'm 2-0 against Daniel Cormier. It's a blessing every time I hear people call him the greatest of all time. That just lets me know who I am. And if Daniel wants to redeem himself, he can come down to the light heavyweight division. I've never challenged any heavyweight. And when I do decide to challenge a heavyweight, it'll be the perfect scenario for me, whether it's financial or stylistic. And, you know, his kids will know at the end of the day that his daddy's not the real champ.
Well, the reason I asked that question. I'm sorry, go ahead. I apologize for interrupting. Go ahead.
I said his kids will know one day when they're old enough that his daddy wasn't the real champ in my era, and that's all that really matters.
But don't you think that's the fight that people really, really want to see, because there clearly appears to be genuine disdain that you guys have for each other, or at the very least he appears to have for you?
I'm 2-0 against Daniel Cormier, and like I said, financially, if the UFC wants to give the fans what they want, it'll happen.
Okay. John Bones Jones right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Last question. I'm thinking about you as the light heavyweight champion. You talked about how you've never challenged a heavyweight. Do you see that in the foreseeable future, you moving up to the heavyweight division, or are you going to stay at the light heavyweight division and be satisfied there?
I'm totally satisfied. You know, when I joined the UFC originally, my goal was to be the greatest light heavyweight champion of all time, and or just the greatest champion of all time. And I'm happy in the lane that I am. I've cleared out my division, and I got a lot of young blood coming up with big dreams. You know, one day beating myself, and my job is just keep on keeping on.
Okay.
And that's what I'm going to do. I'm satisfied in my lane.
John Bone Jones, wishing you nothing but the best. Your headline at UFC 235 at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, a week from Saturday. Good luck to you, my man, and I hope to see you there. Handle your business. We'll talk soon.
It's an honor to talk to you, Steve. Keep being great.
All right, my man. The one and only John Bones Jones, UFC light heavyweight champion of the world, right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Scheduled to go up against Anthony Smith a week from Saturday, UFC 235. Don't miss it. Do not miss it. Let's get back to the phones at 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back to the phones we go about this Robert Kraft situation. And Nuno, again, puts that up for me so I can read this one more time to our listeners and viewers out there, because I want to make sure that everybody understood something that I didn't know. No, at the beginning of the show, I can promise you that. I didn't know all of this stuff was going on. A couple of things. Nuno, I'm looking for this story that you showed me. Here it is. Police in Florida have charged New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft with misdemeanor solicitation of prostitution, saying they have videotape of him paying for a sex act inside an illicit massage parlor. Jupiter police told reporters Friday that the 77-year-old Kraft hasn't been arrested. A warrant will be issued, and his attorneys will be notified. The charge comes amid a widespread crackdown on sex trafficking in the area surrounding Palm Beach County. About 200 arrests have been issued in recent days, and more are expected. Initially, when I talked about this at the beginning of the show, I just thought that, he was engaging in some consensual act with somebody and got caught in a public place. I didn't know all of this stuff was going on. Sex trafficking and videotape, a sting operation spanning months, over 200 arrests. Good Lord, I didn't know he was a part of that. They're not accusing him of sex trafficking, obviously. They're accusing him of being involved in soliciting prostitution. But this is obviously a serious matter now. Make no mistake about it. My lack of understanding, I apologize. I didn't know all of that. Let's go to Stacy. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Hi, Stacy.
Hey, Stephen A. I've been a long-time listener.
Thank you.
Anyway, I am just calling you to let you know I am so unhappy about a situation with Robert Kraft.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I also wanted to say, because these people have money, they get away with just a slap on the wrist. Mm-hmm. That's not fair. These people come from all over the world. These young children, it could be your child, get kidnapped and taken to some different part of the country. Mm-hmm. I'm a 18-wheeler driver all over the country, and I see things and I say things. I report things. My name is probably so long on the different PD, whatever part of the country I go to. If I see a vehicle parked anywhere close to a truck, I call it up, because you know what? I don't know. You never know. It could be somebody else's child. I have a lot of nieces and nephews. It could be any one of mine.
And see, Stacey, that's why I'm so grateful for the call, because see, when I originally heard about this story, I'm thinking, listen, he's been on the record. He had a, relatively young girlfriend, and I'm thinking, he's probably with her, and he got caught engaging in some consensual activity. I had no idea about the sex trafficking, the sting operation, or anything like that. And so now that changes it and elevates the level of seriousness that should be attached to all of this without question. And so, I mean, my apologies for not knowing more before I even commented on the article. I want to make sure I say, because I get where you're coming from. When you talk about sex trafficking, and again, Robert Kraft is not being accused of such thing. He's being accused of soliciting prostitution. But the whole issue of sex trafficking and how serious of a crime that is and how children are involved and what have you. Oh, my God, I had no idea that that was a part of this story. So I appreciate you commenting about it, Stacey.
Believe it or not, Stephen A., there's too much rich folks out here is just getting what they want and just with a slap on the wrist. It's not fair. What about these young children? As I said, it could be anybody's child. What about his grandchild? What about his great-grandchild?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the call, Stacey. Thank you so much. Those are the legitimate questions. Anytime you hear about sex trafficking, that's exactly what you have to think about. That's exactly what you have to think about. That's exactly what you have to do. That's why I paused when I saw sex trafficking. What the hell are they talking? What is going on? Wow. Carlton, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, man?
Hey, I am really saddened by this news. I've always considered Robert Kraft, the consummate executive. And I actually hope somehow, some way he got wrapped up in something far beyond what he understood it to be. You know, my views on Bill Belichick are well known. I can't stand the guy. He's been cheating since he was a lacrosse player at Wesleyan, as was delineated in the biography of him recently released, which made the New York Times. But Kraft is a different person from my standpoint. Nothing but class. But what I really want to see tomorrow is how the social justice warriors on your program, the Mollies and the Maxes.
Well, you're going to have to wait. Well, you got to mean Monday because we don't come back on until
Monday.
Monday.
Right. Yeah, Monday. I forgot today's Friday. You're right. These are the people that, remember when Reuben Foster was just even accused of having a problem with a girlfriend who had actually I think did a little time for falsely accusing a prior boyfriend.
Yes.
They jumped down his throat. They jumped down the Washington Redskins' throat. They thought the Redskins were just like the most horrendous franchise in the world for actually, taking a chance on this guy going forward. Of course, a month and a half later, all charges were dropped against him, and that's completely gone away. But now that Robert Kraft is a favorite of theirs, I can't wait to see what they say about him getting wrapped up in a potentially human trafficking ring that most of them do involve underage children. And in this case, we're talking females. So I can't wait what the social justice warriors have to say about this.
I'll tell you this much. Carlton, people are going to need to have a lot to say. Because, again, when I first heard the story, I'm thinking, okay, he has a young girlfriend. He got caught in a compromising situation, engaging in consensual activity with a consenting adult. When you see the word sex trafficking, that's an entirely different connotation. And all of a sudden, it starts thinking about what you brought up, what the previous caller, Stacey, brought up. And you're talking about human trafficking. You're talking about involving potentially underage children and all of this other stuff. Now, again, he's been accused of soliciting prostitution. He hasn't been accused of being in sex trafficking or anything like that. So let's make sure that we divide the two and make sure we understand what he's being accused of. But nevertheless, when you see the story and anything, you start to talk about sting operations, 200 arrests, a sting operation that involves or spans months at a time, and it said sex trafficking. That's an entirely different situation that I thought existed. So it's scary now, and I sincerely hope he's not guilty of anything the police appear to be accusing him of. But I got to tell you, it's not a good situation for him to be in. And like you said, you think highly of him. Imagine what I think of him and other people think of him who know him a little bit. I mean, we think the world of him. So to see his name associated with such a thing is incredibly uncomfortable.
I sincerely hope he's innocent, but that has never prevented Molly and Max from going at people in the past that are even tangentially associated with any of this stuff. And by the way, you know my views on Donald Trump. I am no fan of Donald Trump's. But for a year and a half, I had to listen to Max at least 30 times bloviate on Donald Trump's collusion with Russians. He has been amazingly silent after that whole thing has completely blown up in his face. If you'd ask him, could he update all of us sports aficionados that had to listen to him bloviate about that, what his position is on that now, that it was all one big fraud on his part, trying to convince everybody that the current administration. Yeah, so
Carlton,
anyway.
Appreciate the call as always, my man. Thank you so much. Yeah. Let's go to Jack. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Jack.
Hey, Stephen A.
Hold on, Jack. Breaking news, CNN, musician R. Kelly, who's been associated with accusations of abusing young women for decades, has been indicted, according to CNN. Now, that is a man I hope gets thrown under the jail after seeing that documentary against him on Lifetime. Oh, my Lord. I just wanted to put that out there. Go ahead, Jack.
Hey, Stephen A. First of all, I don't know if you remember from a couple of weeks ago, I just wanted to say thank you because it made me kind of famous amongst my friends who heard me on your show.
Oh, man, you were a great caller. I didn't make you famous. You made yourself famous because you were making really, really good points. Nothing but respect for you for that, my man.
Well, no, I just wanted to. Well, obviously, you didn't like my comment about the Bears, but I don't want to talk about the Bears right now. I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you personally. Do you think that the NFL will intervene with this Robert Kraft situation at all?
Oh, yes, they will.
In terms of,
they will. They have to. They have to. It's a matter of public record. It's a matter of public record. The police are charging him with a crime, albeit a misdemeanor, still a crime. And the Shield will tell you don't even have to be arrested. You don't have to be indicted. You don't have to be convicted. The court of the NFL will intervene, and obviously something will be brought to bear because of this. There's no question about that.
So what kind of punishment do you think they'll maybe hand down?
I think it depends. I think it depends on what they learn from the police, and as they do their own investigation, that will determine the severity of the punishment.
Thanks, Stephen A. And as always, go Bears. Super Bowl favorites for next year.
All right. Thank you, man. By the way, the NFL says it is aware of the ongoing law enforcement matter and will continue to monitor developments. So they'll monitor developments, and knowing them, they will engage in their own investigation, and they will go from there. Raheem, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Stephen A., what's going on, brother?
What's up, man? Go ahead.
Nothing much. Glad to be on your show today.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make it clear. I'm totally against sex trafficking, soliciting, prostitution.
So am I.
So am I. Details, but what I'm saying, they knew this was going on. They let him win the Super Bowl. But in my opinion, this is just my opinion. Once he built a relationship with Meek Mill, they won the Super Bowl. He put the chain on his neck. I think that he put on a gasoline tuxedo and jogged by a fire when he did that. And then in recent talks, they were talking about signing Kaepernick. If I'm getting it correct, that's when the fire jumped out at him.
No, the reports were that they would one of the teams that would consider him, but it was according to his lawyer. Carolina and New England would be ideal landing spots or whatever. I don't know what level of validity there was to that because where's Tom Brady going? That's number one. Number two, let me make sure I get this clear. For my listeners, what you're saying is that his association with Meek Mill, who obviously, not just because of being a rap artist, but being incarcerated for the probation violation, and ultimately with the assistance of Michael Rubin, part owner for the Philadelphia 76ers, along with Robert Kraft of the New England Patriots, helping to get him out of jail. You're saying his association with Meek Mill, combined with reported willingness to consider bringing Colin Kaepernick to the New England Patriots, you're saying that's a reason why Robert Kraft finds himself in this tenuous situation?
I believe so. That's just my personal opinion. Once you're in the higher ups like that, they don't want certain things to, coincide together. They want you to be on this side, and that's that. Once you start mixing it and crossing it, America wants him put on a plateau to where he stands alone and this country is great. That's just my opinion, brother.
My reaction to that would be, I think that's a stretch, but I'm in no position to tell you you're definitively wrong. I don't know that to be the case. I kind of doubt it, but I can understand the conspiracy theorists out there like yourself, how that could be something that's plausible. I can do that.
But listen to this though. If he is guilty, let's get him on a Lifetime television show like they do on R. Kelly.
Well, if he's guilty of what? Soliciting prostitution?
Come on, brother.
Hold on, wait a minute. Soliciting prostitution is illegal as it may be, okay? And I'm certainly, again, when we say sex trafficking, particularly when you're talking about minors, and oh my God, that's just egregious. Don't get me started with that. Like I said, I didn't know that was the damn story. I thought he got busted engaging in something consensual with another adult or something like that. As simple as that. I didn't know all this sex trafficking stuff was going on, you know, in terms of the sting operation spanning months and over 200 arrests. I had no idea that was the story when I first started off the show. But having said all of that, let's be clear. R. Kelly has been accused of rape, of kidnapping, and stuff like that. I'm just saying. I don't know. Like, you know, I'm not even qualified to go into this because I just don't know. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back with more of your calls on this matter involving Robert Kraft and this whole sex trafficking sting operation conducted by police in Florida and what have you. This is a bad situation. Had no idea it was like this. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. We'll get back to more of your calls in a minute. By the way, do you have frequent heartburn, like the kind where you have antacids stashed everywhere in case it pops up? You know what I mean. You keep some in your bag or your desk or your car or your nightstand. You have those chalky tablets ready for whenever and wherever heartburn strikes. Well, listen up. There's an easier way to deal with your heartburn. That's Prilosec OTC. Just one pill a day will last a full 24 hours with zero heartburn. Kick your antacid habit. It's possible with Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief. Back to your calls in more in a minute with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all. With him recently, I may have misspoke. I don't think so, but I may have misspoke earlier. He only did like 2 or 3 of their playoff games last year. They're swearing they were like 0-7 at home when he's officiating their games, but they were alluding to the last few years as opposed to last season because they only did a couple of their playoff games. So I want to make sure that I made sure I pointed that out. The other thing I wanted to do is get back to the whole Robert Kraft situation. I want to be very, very clear, okay? Because I want to apologize to my listeners and all of this other stuff. Did First Take, got off, had some breakfast, get a news story. Robert Kraft is being charged with soliciting prostitution. It's a developing story. More details will come. I go on the air, and I'm like, okay, he has a young girlfriend, and him probably got busted doing something in some kind of environment, whatever the case may be, at the spa, wherever it was. It was just that simple. And it wasn't until I spoke on that my producers produced a story for me that showed this involves a sting operation, over 200 arrests, sex trafficking, and all of this other stuff. Now, he's not being accused of such things. He's being accused of soliciting prostitution, which is a misdemeanor. That's what he's being accused of. But it's a part of a sex trafficking sting conducted by law enforcement officials that spanned months and has produced over 200 arrests. That's very serious. Because as Stacy, our caller from Florida, pointed out, in a lot of those situations, that involves underage girls, sometimes immigrants. And so when you take into those considerations, you got a lot of helpless individuals. And when you see something like this associated with anybody, particularly those who are wealthy, it just has a strong negative connotation attached to it. So we got to treat it with the seriousness that it deserves. The reason why I didn't sound as serious about it is because I was thinking Robert Kraft was with his young girlfriend or a young lady that he knew, engaging in sexual, some kind of consensual activity, and he got caught because he wasn't in the privacy of his own home. I certainly wasn't thinking all of this. changes the game without question. And the NFL is investigating, and we can hope that he's innocent, as Carlton said as well. Damn, you hope he's innocent of this. He says he's innocent of this. He has engaged in no illegal activity whatsoever. And some would argue he deserves the benefit of the doubt, but these is a highly sensitive subject, highly sensitive story. And obviously, it's treated with the seriousness that it deserves, and it should have been treated with the seriousness that it deserves from opening tip on my part. And for that, I apologize. Let's get back to the phones. Malik, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, Stephen?
All right, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, man, I think we need to reserve judgment before really hopping in and to all of this. Because granted, sex trafficking is huge, and I'm totally against it.
Absolutely. All of us are, and all of us should be. Because a lot more often, first of all, we should be for it, period. But secondly, we all should be, one of the other incentives to be against it is that it usually involves children. So go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. But right now, we don't know what Robert Kraft knew or not. And we don't even know if he knew it was a part of human trafficking.
Correct.
So it's like you said before, as far as consent goes, if it's just him and another woman, both adults consenting to something, then, I mean, it's fair game, you know. Granted, it's illegal. But I think
like I said, if you look at it that way, I hear you. Where we have to be mindful of is that we're about focusing on the fact and the reality that it's a sex trafficking sting. And those words that are being thrown out there by law enforcement officials can't be ignored, can't be minimized. Period. It's a very serious issue. Not just taking place in this country, but in the world.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So if you say Robert Kraft got busted at a massage parlor with another adult, then obviously we're going to have a different opinion about that than we would have when we hear a sex trafficking sting. And that's the point.
It's a serious issue.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen as far as punishment goes?
No, we can't answer that question because first of all, he says that he is innocent of such things, that he has engaged in no illegal activity. And if that is the case, then the only blemish against him would be if it's found that he's engaged in no illegal activity, then the only blemish against him is that it stained the NFL because he found himself in a relatively embarrassing situation. That's it. Other than that, that's it. And then we got to ask ourselves the question, this man who has always been associated with integrity, does he not deserve the benefit of the doubt if he says he is innocent, which he has, and the New England Patriots having a statement? Because I know the man personally. I've spoken to him on several occasions. I got a lot of love and admiration for Robert Kraft. And I'll be damned if I don't want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But when you hear the word sex trafficking, sting, and 200 arrests and all of that other stuff, you have to also treat that with the seriousness as it deserves, if for no other reason, out of respect to our law enforcement officials who are out there doing their job and working hard at it, and also just the whole issue of sex trafficking that has permeated this world in a very negative fashion. You have to treat it with the seriousness that it deserves. But I had no idea that this involved that until after my first segment of the show.
Yeah,
appreciate the call. All right? Go ahead. Real quick. Go ahead. All right, thank you. Roderick, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, man. What's going on, my brother? How are you today?
How are you, man?
Good. Hey, man, I'm down here in Florida. Mm-hmm. And down here, man, most people know that a lot of the massage parlors are geared towards sexual activity. Just a layperson. Okay, for Robert Kraft to suggest that he didn't know that the place where he was attending had potentially prostitution.
Stop right there. Robert Kraft hasn't said anything. All Robert Kraft has said, according to the New England Patriots, is that he is completely innocent of any illegal activity. We haven't heard another word from him on this matter. So what you just said isn't applicable because he hasn't spoken. So we don't know what he feels other than to say he's innocent. We don't know anything else, sir.
Well, what I do know, because I live here in Florida.
Okay. Which part of Florida, by the way? Which part of Florida? Which part of Florida?
I'm West Palm Beach, about 15 miles from Jupiter. Go down there all the time.
Okay, go ahead.
Know about the massage parlors and the whole thing, because my wife and I, we get massages all the time. Okay. As a matter of fact, some of these salons are the reputable ones. They even have it where you go through a process and they'll bring someone out to your house. Now, we're not that wealthy, but we can afford to have someone come to the house. I can't see a man with that wealth and thereby having access to information that may not be available to folks in my income category, not knowing what he was doing. Now, I think the best thing that he can do is what you did earlier. You discovered that you had not that you had to make a correction. You came out and did it, and you moved on. If this guy wants to be considered a man of integrity and morals, what he expects from his players and other people around him, he needs to step up and just be a man, be a father and a grandfather, and admit his guilt and move forward, and not try to hide behind some lie saying that he's innocent, because he's not. I don't know anything except what I know about things in the massage parlors down in the Florida area, man. Okay. And I'm telling you, okay?
Is that bad?
This guy knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing.
Okay. All right. I appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Back with your calls to close out the show in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. You know what never goes out of style? Surprising a friend or loved one with buy one, get one free multicolored roses for $29.99 for 1-800-Flowers.com. That's buy one, get one free multicolored rose bouquets. For the story. There's no way around this. Got to treat it with the seriousness that it deserves. I had no idea that it involved sex trafficking. A sting operation, 200 plus the rest. Lord have mercy. This cannot be ignored, and the NFL has been on the record saying they ain't ignoring it, and Robert Kraft has been on the record with the New England Patriots issuing a statement saying he is not guilty of any illegal activity whatsoever. That is the situation. I got to get on out of here, but Sue, you're live with Stephen A. Only got a minute, Sue. Go ahead.
Stephen A., this is really upsetting to me because I'm from Massachusetts. You guys are sensationalizing this to the point, and you know what? The Patriots are easy prey for this kind of stuff. The man is so far being charged with 2 misdemeanors of solicitation for prostitution just because he got caught on tape while they were doing another operation doesn't say that the man is a sex trafficker and is making slaves out of young girls.
Stop right there, Sue. First of all, just so you know, whatever patriot haterism exists, it ain't this way. Because I know Mr. Kraft, and I got a lot of respect and a lot of love for him. That's number one. Number two, he certainly isn't being accused of sex trafficking by any stretch of the imagination. We're reporting that the police are charging him with soliciting prostitution. That's what it is. He's not being charged with sex trafficking or anything like that, and nobody has implied that.
Thing. And I've been on the website, and I've seen what people are saying out there.
Okay. You talk about the website in terms of what people are saying out there. That's what you're talking about, right? Okay. So we got to get on out of here. Got to get ready to go. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. This story is a developing one. I guess it's not going away, which means we're not going away. We'll talk to you next week. Until then, peace and love.
Learn what affects your credit scores and what you can do to improve them with Credit Karma. Maybe you need to dispute an error in your credit report, or you're paying too much interest. Credit Karma can help with that. Visit creditkarma.com.